I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Trust me, I'm super, super nice. I'm 38 and I haven't accomplished much of anything in life. But it's not like I'm stupid or haven't learned anything. In fact, I've learned a lot. In this video, I'll be walking you through 3 of my biggest mistakes that I don't recommend repeating after me. And that's saying a lot because making mistakes is literally what we need to do in order to grow into mature adult men. Because what happens when you avoid making mistakes? You are making the Papa Smurf mistake of mistakes. And as a guy, you cannot afford to walk down that path. Let me say that again. The Papa Schlumpf mistake I do not recommend making after me is not making any fucking mistakes and not taking any fucking risks. Because not taking any risks is the common theme across the 3 mistakes I'll be sharing with you in this video. If you're between the ages of 15 and 25 and want my free guide with the 2 very first steps you need to take to break the vicious cycle of nice guy wallowing in self-pity, click the link in the description below. Correct. You've landed in one of those videos where a man shows you how to stop jacking off in your mom's basement in 4 steps, except not in 4 steps. This video is more of a how to stop jacking off in your mom's basement to stop being a shitty citizen, bigger picture video. Chances are you're here because you're a nice guy. Nice guys make for shitty citizens because despite being super, super nice, deep down, nice guys are needy, insecure, clingy, and emotional. We are male creatures who on some level don't do our male biology justice. Wait, what? What do you mean shitty citizens? But how's that possible? We're such nice guys. Because nice guys are unpredictable and dangerous to society. So how can you stop being a shitty citizen? The short answer, by becoming an attractive man. This is your purpose in life. And take it from me. You need to allocate as much time as possible to becoming an attractive man and then staying an attractive man. Number 1, because it's really fucking hard. And number 2, because it takes a really long fucking time. If you stay passive all throughout your 20s like I did, you're just delaying the transformation that must happen. Take it from me, brother. I'm no liar. I'm the nicest guy you'll ever meet. That's why I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, watch this video to avoid the mistakes I made. Because avoiding mistakes is the whole fucking problem. You gotta make them to believe me. Avoid nothing. You have to experience the pain yourself. Like you, I was shielded from challenges growing up. And because of that, I turned into a super duper nice guy with all of his most lovely ingredients. Pathological avoidance, obsessive compulsive behavior, porn addiction, overthinking, self-conscious, self-pitying, attached to outcome. That's a nasty cocktail. Eventually, you're not able to look yourself in the mirror. And all this icky fear and self-pity turns into disgusting shame and victimhood. And before we know it, we have a boatload of nice guys floating about in our cushy convenience society. Oh wait, we already do. No man can afford to give in to his fears. And yet that is unfortunately what I did for many years. Here I am at the ripe age of 38, looking up to dudes who are many years my junior. Dudes who are on a way faster path than me, who've started families, businesses. I know this is my path, but still, that's just kind of a bummer from where I'm standing. Now it is what it is, I accept it, but I also know it didn't have to be this way. So this is the one mistake we need you to actually avoid. The world needs you to avoid shitty citizen status. We have more than enough of those already. So we're kind of counting on you here, dude. You don't want to end up like me, wasting some of your best years. Okay, let's back up. I grew up in one of the safest, most prosperous times, the 1990s and early 2000s, in one of the safest and most prosperous places, a lovely little town called Munich, Germany. When I changed schools from public to private Munich International School, halfway through 6th grade, suddenly the kids in my class were from some of the country's richest families, offspring of royalty and people in history books. As you might imagine, despite all this happening in a pre-smartphone era, I was shielded from challenges. There was no rite of passage, no fatherly push to face the world head on. Just an overprotective bubble that taught me to sidestep challenges. This avoidance persisted until I was 33, and that's perfectly natural. Avoidance doesn't just magically go away the older you get. We don't just automatically mature as a function of time. Hopefully we do. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of really old folks have the emotional maturity of a teenager or worse. I could think of a couple of examples in my own family. I like to think I'm making progress, however. Yes, I've been avoiding making this very video you're watching for the past 5 months. But that being said, like I mentioned earlier, I have learned a lot. So as I was saying, avoidance is the Papa Schlumpf of mistakes. And we need you to get off that path as fast as humanly possible. Let's just take a look at my porn consumption. I estimate hardcore pornography to have cost me 6 to 9 months of actual lifetime. So let's just take the mean here. That's 7.5 times 30 days times 24 hours. That is a nice and round 5,400 hours, or a whopping 225 days of lifetime doing major damage to my mind, body, and soul. Being a voyeur to other people having sex, but not even real sex. Performing like sexual sports on steroids. And what gets our male monkey brains the most? With more different partners than our hunter-gatherer brains have evolved to see in a lifetime. I was hypnotized by this shit. The novelty aspect of porn is why it's one of the nastiest addictions for us men. Avoiding pain is also a form of addiction. When you repeatedly engage in avoidant behavior, you start a vicious cycle. Your baseline dopamine drops each time you do not do the hard thing. You are not giving your brain what it needs to grow. Only when we do hard stuff can we grow. And only then do we actually get to feel what everyone calls being happy. Yes, in my case, the pain of inaction has outgrown the fear of taking action. But I'm telling you, not worth it. Our time on this planet is the most precious gift, but it needs to be quality time. I beg you, man. All of this is going to be over before we know it. I've been on 3 more trips around the sun than Mozart, but I'm pretty sure he made them count and had way more of a blast. Despite all the opportunities laid at my feet, it didn't take much to make so little out of my position of privilege. Ironically, a lot of people are more likely to fuck up at life the more of a head start they get. Now let's look at my 3 mistakes of avoidance one by one. When I was in my senior year of high school, I made the first one. One of the single best things I could have done to prevent analysis paralysis in my 20s is doing precisely the opposite of what I did do when German law demanded I join the military. All my friends and their parents thought joining the army was useless. Needless to say, my parents and I share that sentiment. And so from the comfort of our idyllic home, my doctor parents reached out to their most trusted colleagues to ensure I would easily be declared unfit to serve my country. The irony is what the military doctor actually deemed the reason I was unfit. She said, "I don't think you're unfit based on your orthopedic records, but because you've been breathing through your mouth this whole time." Fun fact, I continued to be a mouth breather for 15 years after that. It was a watershed moment. I wonder what my life might have been like had I not opted out. Had I actually gone through serving my country instead of doing everything under the sun to avoid it. My pain avoidance had me trading long-term growth for short-term comfort. Definitely a mistake, not worth making. I'm not saying 12 months of cadet training would have been the be-all, end-all, but it would have been a game changer for me in the lost decade that was to follow. My 20s. My 20s. That's precisely why mandatory military service matters tremendously, and why it should be enforced, especially in the most prosperous of countries, regardless of political situation. It's one of the last tools we have left to form young men. It teaches them to delay gratification like few other things will. It'll work wonders for your emotional development. And it's not hard to see why. It exposes you to pain and discomfort on a consistent basis without being too overwhelming, giving you a head start on finding your purpose. Since all of these mistakes are always mistakes of avoidance, the pattern is always the same. What didn't I do? You probably know this by now, but for us men, it's almost never the things we did that we tend to regret. It's the things we didn't do. For women, it tends to be the other way around. That's why I've decided to start this channel and the community I'm building over on School to help young men not regret losing their most formative years. I've put together a free masterclass that shows you my complete protocol to break out of nice guy mode. Now, while you're still young, I call it the 8 laws of momentum. The link is in the description if you want to dive deeper. Now, when I was 28, I committed another error by not taking action. I decided against going to film school. In the years prior, I had already not been able to commit to one professional path for long enough. Too much freedom, too many distractions. Then at 28, I rediscovered my love for cinema. I fancied making a film of my own, and so I started writing a script and working on student film sets at my local film school. To prove I mean business about becoming a professional filmmaker, I might have at least applied. But of course, I decided not to pursue a 5-year education that would make my dream of becoming a filmmaker more tangible. Instead, I thought I might achieve the same feat on my own and continued to seek out work on film sets. I was thinking I'll learn the craft faster this way because it's more hands-on. But the reality looked different. I was always making people coffee and dog-sitting the actors' pets. Committing to a 5-year educational path would have given me more networking credibility among film peers. Looking back now, I can say that all of my film and other job experiments became unbearable for me within months. I never rode out anything long enough to get to a high level in that thing, as one with analysis paralysis, procrastination, and avoidance issues tends to do. All of those are just different shades of the color fear. You get stuck reliving the same short-term loop of trying out everything under the sun. Meanwhile, you never accrue the necessary competence to become an expert in that field. Another downstream result of this, of course, you're always struggling with money. But your parents are there, and so you land softly each and every time. And God bless them. But if you're anything like me, you never quite understand how to snap out of this perpetual cycle. You don't want to, and why would you? You don't need to. This is only painful enough if repeated often enough. And not even then are you guaranteed to develop the requisite discipline. For a lot of guys, their pain of inaction never surpasses their fear of taking action. So sad. Now for the third of my biggest mistakes as a young adult. The mistake I continued to make throughout my teens and 20s, well into my 30s. The godfather mistake of men rooted in fear, which is possible, by the way, even when you have naturally high testosterone. What mistake might that be? My failure to just start interacting with girls I fancied. Had I developed the balls to tackle this 17 or even just 10 years earlier than I actually did, my life would have 100,000% run a different course. Cold approaching not just girls, but anyone is one of the most valuable tools you need in your tool belt. Every man locked in fear needs to learn cold approach. Let me say that again. I'm afraid this might be passing over your head. Every man locked in fear needs to learn cold approach. Most, if not all, of our social anxiety and why we avoid people and social gatherings stem from this fear. The puzzle we're going to be piecing together on this channel is not to pick up chicks. It's to stop being a shitty citizen. It's about snapping out of self-pity. Not being scared of girls and other human beings is simply the most obvious way to do so. So you can build a life you can be proud of. I was far away from any of that until at the ripe age of 33, I finally picked myself up and decided to go through a 3 to 6 month period that was relatively painful. This pain was precisely what allowed me to turn my life around. On some level, everything we do as men is to get women and procreate. That is by definition the meaning of life. As men, the onus is on us. If we fail to appreciate this or are offended by this, life will pass us by. Bye-bye. We have to accept this challenge. No one's coming to save us or explain it to us. Least of all the women we desire relationships with. Throughout history, older, more experienced men have mentored younger ones for this very reason. We need to revive the tradition of rites of passage where male role models prepare young men for the never-ending exam called life. I never quite had that male role model, which is the very fuel for what I'm trying to build here now. My father was not absent. He was very much around physically, but neither he nor I ever stepped into this realm of our father-son relationship. No blame. It is what it is. Besides, more often than not, teenage dudes are less likely to listen to their own dads than, say, their coach or their teacher or their neighbor or their dad's friend. Why is that? Well, non-biological role models can offer a different perspective that is not clouded by the baggage of parent-child relationships. They can inspire and challenge and guide us in ways that feels less like criticism and more like encouragement. This is where any adult male you trust comes in, and hopefully does already. Not as a replacement for fatherly advice, but as an additional voice to help you navigate your path. So I finally learned to make a habit of talking to strangers at age 33. Most of my friends from high school had their first child by then, when I had finally decided to lay the groundwork to be a social human being. Better late than never. I was a far cry away from proactively starting conversations with people in my 20s, much less attractive girls. This is hands down the number one reason why it was a lost decade for me. The upside is, despite usually not being attractive to women in our 20s, we can do so much to get a head start compared to the guys who continue to pity themselves in their mom's basement. That's all I'm asking of you, dude. Get started on the foundation today, please. Since I was your age 20 years ago, the world has gone from tough to super tough. None of the stimuli around us challenge us in a way that would be conducive to our natural proclivities as men. I sympathize with all of those who are adrift, unattractive young men in an ocean of indifference. Indifference is the worst. An indifferent world feels the most brutal and hostile, ironically. If you're serious about overcoming your crippling fear around people and social situations in the next 6 weeks and want to work with me directly, click the link below to book a free consultation call. While I encourage you to make a lot of mistakes and make them fast, do me a favor and stop avoiding the difficult stuff. For that's the Papa Schlumpf of mistakes, as we've seen. The Papa Schlumpf mistake of mistakes is the one giant mistake you get to avoid. You'll be grateful on your deathbed to be free of regret.